Basketball is a game of rules and structure. But sometimes, a player comes along who rewrites those rules. This is the story of a man who turned the basketball court into his own magic show. On July 14, 2000, during a routine summer league game, Jason Williams did something that would be replayed millions of times. As he raced down the court on a fast break, he faked a pass behind his back. But what happened next left everyone speechless. Without looking, he flicked the ball with his elbow, sending it flying behind his back to a teammate for an easy score. The crowd went wild, the commentators lost their minds. And the basketball world would never be the same. They called him White Chocolate. A skinny kid from West Virginia who played basketball like he came straight from the streets of New York. His passes weren't just passes, they were optical illusions. His dribbling wasn't just dribbling, it was like watching a magician perform his best tricks. Defenders didn't just guard him, they tried to solve him, like a puzzle that kept changing its shape. In an era when the NBA was looking for its next big star, Jason Williams gave them something different. He wasn't the fastest. He wasn't the strongest. But he had something that you couldn't teach, couldn't defend, and couldn't look away from: pure, unfiltered creativity. This is the story of how a small-town boy with big-city flair changed what we thought was possible on a basketball court. How he turned simple plays into spectacular moments. How he made fans believe in magic again. But to understand how Jason Williams fooled the NBA, we need to go back. Back to where it all began. Back to the playgrounds of Bell, West Virginia, where a young boy first learned that sometimes, the best way to play the game is to play with it. This isn't just a basketball story. This is a story about daring to be different. About having the courage to play your own way, even when the world tells you to play it safe. This is the story of the magician. Bell, West Virginia. Population, just over 1,000. The kind of town where everyone knows everyone, and basketball hoops hang from nearly every garage. This is where our story begins. In 1975, Jason Williams was born into a world that lived and breathed basketball. But while other kids were copying Michael Jordan's fadeaway or Magic Johnson's no-look passes, young Jason was creating his own style. A style that would later leave NBA veterans scratching their heads. Local resident speaks. Even as a kid, Jason was different. He'd be out there on the playground till dark, trying moves nobody had ever seen before. We used to think he was just showing off. Turns out, he was inventing. Here in Bell, basketball wasn't just a game, it was freedom. The playground became Jason's laboratory. Every day after school, he'd practice moves that seemed impossible. Behind-the-back dribbles that looked more like magic tricks. Passes that seemed to bend around defenders like they were guided by remote control. By the time Jason reached Marshall University, his reputation was already growing. But college basketball wasn't ready for his playground style. Some called it showboating. Others called it reckless. In 1996, after a series of conflicts with his coach, Jason left Marshall for Florida. It was a move that could have ended his career. Instead, it was just the beginning. Basketball analyst speaks. What people didn't understand about Jason was that his style wasn't just for show. Every fake, every trick, every unexpected move had a purpose. He wasn't just trying to embarrass defenders, he was trying to create opportunities that nobody else could see. The streets had taught Jason something that no coach could: basketball isn't just about making the right play, it's about making the unexpected play. When everyone zigs, you zag. When they look left, you go right. And sometimes, the best way to fool a defender is to fool everyone in the arena. It was on the playgrounds where Jason truly found his identity. The same moves that got him in trouble in college made him a legend on the streets. He mixed the raw creativity of streetball with the discipline of organized basketball. The result was something entirely new, a style that would earn him one of basketball's most fitting nicknames, White Chocolate. Former teammate speaks. You couldn't guard what you couldn't predict. And with Jason, you never knew what was coming next. That's what made him special. That's what made him white chocolate. The basketball world was about to meet a player who didn't just break the rules, he rewrote them. A player who would prove that sometimes, the most effective way to play the game is to play it like nobody else ever has. Little did the NBA know, they weren't just getting a point guard from West Virginia. They were getting a magician who was about to turn their league into his own personal show. June 24, 1998. The NBA Draft. While all eyes were on players like Paul Pierce and Dirk Nowitzki, the Sacramento Kings were about to make a pick that would change the way we think about basketball. With the 7th pick, they chose Jason Williams. The Kings weren't just getting a point guard, they were getting a revolution in sneakers. Sacramento in the late 90s was hungry for excitement. The Kings hadn't seen real success in years. What they got with Jason Williams was more than success, they got showtime. From his very first game, it was clear, this wasn't your typical NBA point guard. Former Kings coach Rick Adelman speaks. When Jason first arrived, I'll be honest, I was worried. His style was unlike anything I'd seen. But then I realized something, he wasn't just playing differently, he was seeing the game differently. The partnership with Chris Webber and Vlade Divac was magic from day one. Webber, with his power and skill, and Divac, with his craftiness, found themselves on the receiving end of passes that seemed to come out of nowhere. Williams wasn't just passing to where they were, he was passing to where they were going to be, often before they knew it themselves. Chris Webber speaks. Playing with J-Will was like being in a basketball video game. You'd be running down the court, and suddenly the ball would appear in your hands from some impossible angle. You just had to be ready. Always ready. The nickname, White Chocolate, stuck almost immediately. The media couldn't get enough. Here was this young kid from West Virginia, playing with the flair of a Harlem Globetrotter and the vision of a chess master. The crowd started coming. The highlights started flowing. Arco Arena became the hottest ticket in town. But it wasn't all smooth sailing. For every spectacular play, there were moments that drove coaches crazy. Behind-the-back passes that flew into the stands. No-look passes that nobody saw coming, including his teammates. Yet, the Kings stuck with him. They understood what they had, not just a player, but a phenomenon. NBA analyst speaks. The Kings became must-see TV. Even opposing players would watch their warm-ups, just to see what Williams might do next. He turned Sacramento into the most entertaining show in the NBA. Under the bright lights of the NBA, Jason Williams didn't just survive, he thrived. He took the playground style that had gotten him this far and refined it for the big stage. The result was something the league had never seen before, a player who could make a basic pass look like a magic trick, and make impossible passes look routine. The fans loved him because he played with joy. His teammates loved him because he made them better. And his opponents? They never knew what was coming next. That was the beauty of White Chocolate, just when you thought you had him figured out, he'd show you something new. In Sacramento, Jason Williams didn't just find a team, he found a stage big enough for his talents. And in Jason Williams, Sacramento didn't just find a point guard, they found an identity. The Kings became known as the most exciting team in basketball, a reputation that would follow them for years to come. But creating magic on the court wasn't just about natural talent. Behind every no-look pass and every elbow assist was countless hours of practice, perfecting the art of deception. Magic isn't really magic. It's science. It's practice. It's understanding how to make people look where you want them to look. And nobody in basketball understood this better than Jason Williams. Every great magician has their signature tricks. For Williams, it started with the basics, but he turned those basics into art. A simple crossover became a disappearing act. A regular bounce pass transformed into something that seemed to bend the laws of physics. Former NBA trainer speaks. People think Jason was just out there freestyling. But what they didn't see were the hours before practice, the hours after practice. He'd work on these moves until they were second nature. Until he could do them without thinking. The secret to Williams' deception wasn't just in his hands, it was in his eyes. He mastered the art of never looking where he was passing. Defenders would watch his eyes, trying to read the play. But by then, the ball was already going somewhere else. It was like trying to catch smoke with your bare hands. NBA coach speaks. The problem wasn't just stopping his passes, it was stopping what those passes did to your defense. One crazy play would get the crowd going, get his teammates fired up, and suddenly your whole game plan would fall apart. Williams didn't just master deception, he turned it into an offensive weapon. Each trick pass, each unexpected move served a purpose, to create space, to find the open man, to make the defense second-guess everything they thought they knew about basketball. In a league full of athletes who could jump higher and run faster, Jason Williams carved out his own niche. He proved that sometimes the most effective weapon on a basketball court isn't speed or strength, it's the ability to make everyone look the other way. But as Williams would soon learn, there's a fine line between entertainment and effectiveness. His next challenge would be finding the balance between magic and winning basketball. Every magician reaches a point where they have to decide, keep doing the same tricks, or evolve. For Jason Williams, that moment came in 2001 when he was traded to the Memphis Grizzlies. Memphis wasn't Sacramento. The Grizzlies weren't looking for showtime, they were looking for wins. For Williams, it meant learning a new trick, how to blend his natural flair with winning basketball. Memphis teammate speaks. You could see the change in his game. He was still white chocolate, but now with a different flavor. More controlled, more precise, but still just as sweet. Then came 2005, and with it, a chance at something bigger. The Miami Heat, led by Shaquille O'Neal and Dwayne Wade, needed a point guard who could both entertain and execute. They needed Jason Williams. Cut to Miami Heat footage. In Miami, Williams found himself in a new role. He wasn't asked to be the main attraction, he was asked to be the perfect supporting act. And sometimes, that's where the real magic happens. Pat Riley speaks. Jason showed us all what growth looks like. He took everything that made him special and learned how to use it in service of the team. That's rare. That's special. The 2006 NBA Finals became his biggest stage. Against the Dallas Mavericks, Williams showed the world his complete transformation. The flashy plays were still there, but now they came wrapped in championship-level decision-making. June 20, 2006. When the final buzzer sounded and the Miami Heat became NBA champions, Jason Williams had completed his journey. From playground legend to NBA champion. From showman to complete player. Dwayne Wade speaks. J-Will was crucial to our championship. He knew exactly when to be white chocolate and when to be just Jason Williams. That's what made him special, he could be both. Cut to celebration footage. The championship ring meant more than just jewelry. It was proof that style and substance could coexist. That being different didn't mean being wrong. That sometimes, the best way to succeed isn't to change who you are, but to become a better version of yourself. Williams speaking post-championship. People always asked if I had to choose between being entertaining and being successful. But why choose? The trick is learning when to use which tool in your bag. Sometimes you need the fancy pass, sometimes you need the simple one. The magic is knowing the difference. His evolution wasn't about abandoning his style, it was about refining it. Like a magician who masters the classics before creating new illusions, Williams had learned to blend his natural creativity with championship-level execution. But Jason Williams didn't just change himself, he changed the game. His influence would be felt long after his playing days were over, inspiring a new generation of players who believed that basketball could be both art and science. Basketball culture expert speaks. What Jason Williams did was give permission. Permission to try the unexpected. Permission to play with joy. Permission to bring your whole self to the game, no matter where you came from. Social media has turned his highlights into timeless pieces of basketball art. New generations discover his magic every day, sharing clips that still look impossible even after watching them 100 times. In today's game, point guards are expected to be both playmakers and entertainers. The position has evolved, and Williams was one of the pioneers who helped push it forward. Coaches now teach young players to be creative, to see passes that others might miss. NBA skills trainer speaks. Jason Williams changed how we think about player development. It's not just about fundamentals anymore, it's about fostering creativity, about letting players find their own style within the game. Show various NBA arenas. The NBA itself has changed too. The league has embraced flair and personality, understanding that basketball is both sport and entertainment. Every night, in arenas across the country, players pull off moves that would have been considered too flashy 20 years ago. Cut to Williams in present day. Today, Jason Williams watches the game he helped transform. He sees young players adding their own chapters to the story he helped write. The magic he brought to basketball continues to evolve, to grow, to inspire. Williams speaks. I never set out to change basketball. I just played the way I knew how. But if I showed even one kid that it's okay to be different, to be creative, to be yourself, then that's the real magic. His career numbers might not jump off the page, but Jason Williams' impact can't be measured in statistics. It's measured in the smiles of fans who witnessed the impossible. In the young players who dared to try something new. In the way basketball embraced creativity and made it part of the game. They called him White Chocolate. The magician. The man who fooled the NBA. But Jason Williams' greatest trick wasn't his elbow pass or his no-look assists. It was showing us all that basketball is more than just a game, it's an art form. And sometimes, the best artists are the ones who make their own rules. In a game of giants, he proved that magic comes in all sizes. In a league of highlights, he created moments that would last forever. And in a sport that often prioritizes winning above all else, Jason Williams reminded us of something important. Sometimes, the most valuable thing you can bring to the game is joy.